Hello and welcome to this edition of Diaspora Central Spotlight with Gil Ingles. With me today, I have someone who's definitely one of those individuals that has directed and guided, I should say, plenty of careers, and I should actually say successful careers of several diaspora artists here in the US. And here's the one thing that I want you all to know about this man. When his name comes up, it's something good, it's something important. Mr. Will Hug, or formerly, I should say, William Hug.
Thank you very much,
Welcome to
Gil.
Diaspora Central, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Ingles. I really appreciate your hearty welcome and generous words.
Yeah,
As always, you're quite the you make everybody feel welcome, whatever the venue, and I've noticed that, and I've witnessed that over the years.
thank you, sir. Definitely a pleasure. Means a lot. Means a lot to me coming from you, and I definitely because if great appreciates you, then you know that you're great too. So I'm feeling good right now, indeed. But sir, one of the things that this show, though this platform, I should say, has as part of its purpose is to actually not only bridge the gap but also to create that DNA of the diaspora. Because a lot of times we get stories right told by other people, which end up being interpretations of what the real story is. So this platform is coming in to basically squash that and start having the real stories told by the individuals who have actually lived them, right?
Hmm.
So William Hug, let's start, or should I say, sir? Today I'm gonna say, Sir William Hug. I'm just, you know that I'm gonna mess with you the entire show, so
Yeah,
just feel at
it's
home, right?
fine. You know, I
Just
have a
feel at
sense of
home.
humor. It's
Just feel
okay.
at home. Yeah,
I'm just honored to be here. Really.
thank you. Yeah, let's start with where you from and how did you end up with this entertainment portion in or the entertainment industry portion into your resume or into your life, because we know that professionally you do something else. So let's start first by where you were born, where you were raised, and let's take a little tiny steps briefly, but tiny steps and concise steps so that people can understand in reality who William Hug is.
Sure. Well, for those of you who may not know, or your listeners, um, or those who've tuned into this show, I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. That's the economic capital of Maryland, which is a state just north of D.C. In fact, many of um, our colleagues who work in the entertainment industry, African entertainment industry in the diaspora in DC, actually live in Maryland, just outside of DC. So
Right.
I'm on the other end of Maryland toward Pennsylvania, and that's where I grew up. And my mom was from the South, my dad was from the North. So I was born out of the combination of two different people.
Yeah.
And I went back a couple generations, and it's true. Like my ancestors were all we had Protestants marrying Catholics and Northerners marrying Southerners,
Hmm.
and even though they were all European immigrants,
Right.
there was definitely a mixture of class and religion and immigrant versus non-immigrant.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting place. And being in Maryland, a lot of people may not know this history, but during the Civil War, it was considered neutral.
Right.
But it wasn't neutral at all. You had people fighting to the death in Maryland,
Indeed.
and fighting for freedom. The African American history of liberation dates back to the very beginning of Maryland. So,
Right.
there are hundreds and hundreds of years of social justice in Maryland, some good things and some bad things.
Right.
I grew up during integration, which is the logical next step after the civil rights movement.
Hmm.
I literally grew up in integration. So our neighborhood's majority white, mostly Catholic. like Polish and Italian Catholic, and we were the non-Catholic folks on the block. My dad's a Presbyterian minister, and
Right.
so that was already kind of strange. And then we started integrating. My first long-term relationship was with somebody from my grade, second and third grade,
Hmm.
black. And she and I went out for 2 years, second and
Right.
third grade. Like that was nothing,
The thing
it's
to
like,
do, right?
right. And in my elementary school, it went from like 80% white to 90% black by the
Hmm.
time I graduated from
Right.
first to sixth grade. I mean,
Got you.
huge change in Baltimore
Right.
at that time. And so I always tell people I was blessed
Hmm.
to grow up during integration. And
Indeed.
I only realized that later in my life
Right.
when I started comparing notes with other people who've grown up, particularly white folks, other
Hmm.
white folks who grew up in a very segregated way.
Right.
And and so I just, I've been fighting to learn
Right.
my place,
There you go.
and I always feel like I'm a bridge between different worlds, and that
Indeed.
just seems to be my path. I
Right.
mean, not just musically, but other ways too. I always seem to be kind of in between different communities.
Right. And I think being a bridge is really, we all are a bridge, right? We either a bridge of energy or anything, but being a bridge is really what God has put us here to be, right? To interface with others and just give good energy and receive good energy. Um,
Yes.
one of the things that I do admire about you is the fact that you, as always, you bring in one trait that of professionalism that, in my opinion, the diaspora culture needs um, at times, because sometimes a lot of artists think that all you need to do is just get up, hold on to the microphone, sing, be done, and everybody loves you. You're good, so you should just be on every show, right? So the importance of actually having a management team or a management group of individuals that help direct a talent is not something that many artists see right off the top. So, at what point did you see the need for you to start to engage yourself on that level with some African artists or with some diaspora artists?
Well, before I answer that question,
Yeah,
I will very quickly.
sure.
I just want to say that I've been interested and exposed to many different types of African music from all
Hmm.
throughout the continent since I was in high school.
Great.
And even before then, I realized that there were African influences in some of the, even like the pop groups. Like I used to love Talking Heads,
Right,
and you might know that Angelique Kidjo just redid their Remain in Light
right,
album, which is heavily influenced by Yoruba culture,
right,
and many people don't know she's also part Yoruba.
right.
Her grandfather was. I spoke to her actually
Yeah.
in person and
Oh,
found
wow.
that out.
Yeah,
And
that's
she told
big.
me that herself, that her grandfather was Yoruba.
Right.
So anyway, I was interested in world music, particularly African music, particularly African music from the African diaspora,
Mm-hmm.
and I was big into R&B and hip hop and house and go-go from DC,
Right.
even though I was from Baltimore.
Yeah.
Other things, other types of music, Caribbean music like reggae and soca and merengue and zouk. I was a big in. I had zouk albums back in high school.
Right.
I don't know. I liked everything. I
Right.
would mix. I
Right.
would mix Aero, soca with some house,
Yeah.
at college, and
Mm-hmm.
people loved it. They're like, "Oh, what is it?" Like it was so different.
Indeed.
So being around music, and I was invited into the Panafest um, festival, Pan African festival called Panafest in
Yes.
Silver Spring by
Yes.
my friend Ada Brown, and she had me basically be doing like stage management, and I had
Right.
done that before at other festivals,
Right.
and I had been a DJ, so I could talk to the DJs and I could talk to the MCs, and I
Right.
kind of understood everybody's language.
So you
But it
you
was
so you were basically the stage manager.
I was
Yeah.
it was like 2012, I think,
Mm-hmm.
and I met Adele-Clarice, who was singing with the Lions Band,
Okay.
very popular, amazing band
Right.
from the DMV, mostly Cameroonian, but definitely Pan African in terms of its constituency
Right.
and what they play, and they Zaina was playing she was the main singer the first set, and
Mm-hmm.
then she took a break the second set. Adele came out, and I was like, "Who is this?" Like, she just took over the crowd, and
Right.
I went from behind the stage to the front of the stage, just like taping it. I'm like,
There
"Who
you
is
go.
this famous person, who
Right.
just came here?" And in fact,
Yeah.
backstage we talked, and she had just come to the U.S. and she
Okay.
had traveled all over the
The
African
world.
continent
Mm-hmm.
and mostly West Africa. And I said, I got some folks up in Baltimore. I'm very connected with the house music scene, and I think your voice would be perfect. And we
Mm-hmm.
actually um, exchanged information, and I took her to Baltimore to meet a couple of folks. She cut a couple songs up there,
Mm-hmm.
and she said, "You know what? I want you to be my manager." And I said, "I've
Right.
I've never done that before."
Right.
She's like, "Well, it's okay. I know I've had managers, and I think you can do it."
Right. There you go. That's
So
that vote of
I
confidence.
and so I went home and I wrote down for her like all the reasons why I think I could do it, and all my musical experience DJing on the radio and
Right.
mobile and being part of festivals and all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
would prepare me for this. And handed it to her, and she looked at it for about a half second. She's like, "I don't need this." And I was like,
Right.
"But this is everything I've done. This will make sure you're being careful, making a careful decision about who
Right.
you're inviting in to launch a U.S. campaign." And she's
Right.
like, "No, I respect who you are, and I can trust you." And um, so that's been my
It.
entree. And then
Yeah.
I started reading and meeting other people and
Mm-hmm.
meeting many professionals
Right.
of the diaspora. You mentioned professionalism.
Yes.
Some of the most professional folks in the business I've met are of African descent or
Right.
African immigrants in the U.S. So
Right.
I learn a lot every day just by interacting with everybody we have to interact
Yeah.
with to get things done.
And being part of the culture, and for people who actually don't know, the Panafest Festival is an annual festival that happens in downtown Silver Spring, Maryland. I have actually also been blessed to co-host that festival for I believe, oh gracious, we're going on probably 10 years. I co-hosted that festival for quite a bit. So
Right.
yeah, it's definitely one of those huge things that happens in that area. It showcases a lot of culture and a lot of things going on. But you know what? We have now an opportunity to actually go into a break. So when we get back, I want to pick up the conversation because I want to get back into your actual profession and how that has helped you transition over or make you more, how can I say, effective
Mhm.
in artist management in part that you do for the community or for the culture. We'll be right back, and you are listening to Diaspora Central with Gil Ingles. We'll be right back.
District 14 might have been compromised.
What? The last thing I remember is we had a crash on the C-13.
This aircraft lost communication 21 minutes after its departure from the U.S. military base in Costa Rica.
Abakarani pasaporte americana.
We will bring them home.
The mission begins now. I think we might need to send a backup team to Panama.
We're about 2 hours out. Just got intel that a militia is actually going on the way right now through XYZA, all the way to the border of Colombia.
And we are back. If you have just joined us, you're listening to Diaspora Central. I am Gil Ingles, and my guest today is no other than Sir William Hug Baltimore. well represented right here on Diaspora Central.
That's right.
Indeed.
Born and raised.
Yeah. Now, professionally, you are an educator?
Yes, I've been in higher education most of my professional life.
Okay.
About 25 years
Yeah.
in higher education. I also worked with refugees, actually in Silver Spring, helping with a refugee resettlement project back in the early 90s.
Okay.
I've done human development type of work as well.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of copyright research
Mm-hmm.
and other kind of paralegal work.
Right.
Worked in music.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting thing. Now, you have also been involved like on radio and so at some point in your life you had to be like, you know what, I do have something because those things don't just happen, right? Being at the right place at the right time don't just happen. Something takes you there.
Mhm.
What is that thing that took you to where you are right now?
Well, I know it's really corny, but
Right.
I feel like, God gives you signs
Yeah.
and you either pay attention to them or you don't.
Right.
And the more I pay attention to these signs, and I'm also Pisces, so we're very intuitive.
Oh,
The
there
more
you
I
go.
pay attention to these things, it's like, well, you love music. You can't go without music.
Mhm.
What is your role?
Right.
I've sung, but I'm not a singer. I've DJ'd, but I've never gotten paid a lot of money to DJ.
Right.
I have gotten paid, but not a lot. I've managed the stage, but I don't have any equipment.
Right.
you know? So like all these different things have happened. And back in college, I was with a very musical house. Everybody was in a band,
Okay.
and I was the DJ. And
So
one of
what school did you go
those-
to? I'm sorry.
Oh, that was Oberlin. Sorry.
Okay.
That was Oberlin College,
Mhm.
which is one of the 4 best conservatories in the U.S.
All right.
But that's only a fifth of the population is the conservatory side. I was on the other side studying, basically we would call Russian studies
Okay.
and Africana studies
Okay.
and history.
Oh wow.
But I was also very involved with music
Mhm.
as a DJ in different choral ensembles.
Right.
And so the more I kept music as part of my life and
Yeah.
creativity, the more I realized I've just got to find my way,
There you
you
go.
know. And I like to connect people. I like to connect ideas.
Mhm.
I have a wide range of friends and interests and musical collections. So I
Okay.
think that kind of set me up to be ready when the opportunity presented itself.
Right.
When Adele was saying, I want to go and sing. We would sing. We'd have her sing anywhere. We
Yeah.
went downtown DC to a reggae bar,
Mhm.
and we would just talk our way onto stage or talk her onto the stage.
Right.
And she ended up playing with some really famous, like folks who were famous in DC
Right.
on stage, including Lenny Curlew and it's just really
Yeah.
fascinating people
Right.
we've gotten to know.
No, that takes know-how, right? It takes that desire of actually wanting to do it, because after knowing what to do, execution is a must, especially when you're managing someone's career. Now, you I know that is she the only artist that you manage currently?
Yes.
Okay.
And
But
I
you do-
promised
but-
her
Yeah,
that
go ahead.
once she gets picked up, I'll expand.
So you basically and that's important that you said when she gets picked up, because a lot of people don't understand what that picked up means. Go ahead and explain that to our audience, what pick up means.
Well, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of great documentaries out there, even on Netflix, some that came out this year and last year. I encourage people to see. I'm not going to name any names, but
Right.
there are a lot of roadmaps how to do it. You
Right.
know, you basically have to have an album, you have to have a press kit, you have to
Right.
have a manager. I really believe you should have
Mhm.
one, even though you can do a lot on your own. I really feel like everyone should have that buffer, that
Mhm.
person who looks out for them,
Right.
no matter what the situation is.
Right.
Probably need a lawyer,
Right.
but basically the goal is to get picked up by a label, and then
Right.
they will give you money to cut your album, and don't go spend all that money.
Right.
Keep that
On-
because
on-
you might owe some of it back. So basically, you want to get picked up by a major label who will help you get the best production sound and distribute you. You know, they're gonna get an army out there to
Indeed.
push your music.
Indeed.
And then you get onto rotation on radio stations, on different playlists,
Right.
and it just it balloons from there.
Right.
You look at like Burna Boy, who just like seemed to come out of nowhere,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden he had like 5 songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't just happen,
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nominations.
lucky.
Yeah. Nominations left and right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of times, and that's one of the things and that's the reason why I kind of wanted you to explain that, because a lot of people don't understand that actually having representation or a team that represents you helps you first be professional, because you don't have to do everything yourself. Tasks are delegated, so the machine, it's a lot more efficient than it is when it is just you pushing that machine forward. Meaning that when it comes to presentation, you come out a lot better than someone who could probably just be doing everything themselves, because there's no one holding up the portions that he's not paying attention to or that she's not paying attention to when other things are going on.
And there are very few people who can do the creative side and
Right.
can do the technical side and the legalistic side and the
Indeed.
promotion side. There are very few people who can do all of that.
Indeed.
There are some people who do.
Right.
And so I think you get a manager who compliments you.
Mm.
Whatever you do well, or whatever you don't do well, hire somebody who does that well.
There you go.
Or,
Yeah. So
and
in
that-
so in other words, make sure that you get individuals that complement you into your team. Don't just get people just because you need people. No, get individuals that complement you into the team, so that way your image will be complemented, and at that point it can actually be shown as something greater at times than what it probably is, just because he
Right.
has the effort of several individuals.
Right. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to like each other. I mean, you just have to be able to respect each other. That person doesn't
Respect,
even
right?
have to, they don't even have to have the same interests as you in terms of music. It helps a lot,
Yeah.
but they don't even have to. I mean, they just, a lot of people go just for the business person, and
Right.
I would advise against that.
Yeah.
You need to have somebody who, particularly as you know, in our scene,
Mhm.
and I'm saying our scene because you and I have been
Right.
there.
Right.
There's a certain way you have to negotiate
Indeed.
different environments, and
Indeed.
things change. and
Indeed. Indeed.
You don't want somebody who's completely sticking out in terms of their behavior. I
right.
mean, obviously I stick out
Right.
the way I appear, but
Right.
I hope that I don't, I mean, I'm going to make mistakes all the time, cultural mistakes
No,
all
I think
the time.
no. I trust you and me. We even some of us who have actually been born in the continent make cultural mistakes, because in cultural mistakes, I mean, we have to remember, this is the diaspora. This is a culture that we are forging. This is not a culture that already existed. It's not a culture. No, this is our culture. We forging this as we going. We live in this on a daily basis, and we making mistakes, and we correcting those mistakes, and we becoming better, right? So I honestly believe, and I do understand where you're coming from, but I just want to also kind of lighten up the weight a little bit on you, because in all honesty, this is the culture that we are all creating in the diaspora. This culture is not a culture that belongs to another place. No, this is the place where it's being created, where it's being done on a daily basis, right? Yeah.
And I think that, you see lots of examples of that. I mean, even just, we went back to Lions Band or some of these other bands that have members from different communities, there are so many examples of the DMV. It's exciting because you really have people speaking different languages, having different food, having different cultures, having different expectations. And so the more diverse your team is, the easier it is for you to interact with this diverse situation.
Indeed. Because at the end of the day, it's not a one-dimensional world, and definitely not a one-dimensional diaspora. Yeah. Now, one more thing. and that's one of those things that a lot of people at times try to use against those of us that have a professional career aside from the entertainment career. And I'm, as you know, I am one of those individuals also that gets that a lot. But explain from your perspective what some of the benefits are of the things that you have learned in a corporate career that allowed you to be more efficient and probably better than the average person in the entertainment industry.
Well, I've only had 2 corporate jobs, total of, less than 10% of my work life. So it's mostly been human, either nonprofit or educational, which should be nonprofit.
Right.
And the nice thing about working at a community college like I do is that we are taught to be flexible. So you're given a little bit more responsibility to take risks and make connections outside of your silo. So that's very important. I've been in the community college realm for 20 years, and that informs me because I realize the importance of your word, of making connections with people on a very human and humble level, no matter what rank somebody is at, no matter how many initials past their name, PhD, MS, whatever. It's really about treating people with respect.
Right.
And it's hugely important, particularly in the community college environment, because a lot of our students have been not treated well by society, and they're fighting for their own personal liberation and the liberation of their families and their communities, and independence and self-sufficiency. And so with that comes a lot of distrust of people who look like me and people who are in government jobs like I am, and structures. So your structure that you build has to be, it almost has to be like welcoming someone into a family.
Indeed.
And a lot of people say they love that about our community college because they feel like it's a family atmosphere.
Yeah.
And they've gone to other community colleges and it doesn't feel that way.
Right.
And so I would say that has taught me a lot, that you can have structure and you can build things so that it lasts, but you have to be flexible and always pay attention to who you're serving.
There you go.
I don't like to say customer or student because you could be serving your friend down the hall who's also trying to help.
Indeed.
And we are all learning from each other.
Indeed.
I mean, you have to be humble enough to realize that just because you get to be there with a salary and a desk and a chair, you're also learning.
Yeah.
So,
indeed.
I tell people all the time. I work with international students. That's what I help students come to the U.S. and stay in the U.S. on a student visa.
Right.
And I tell people, even though I haven't been able to travel in the past couple of decades of my life, the world comes to my office.
Right.
And so that just being with international students every day, from 1 minute to the next, you literally have to change your whole communication style.
Right.
Everybody interprets respect differently.
Yeah.
So I think just learning about the importance of respect across cultures, acknowledging humanity, being humble, learning, showing that you're willing to learn, showing that you're willing to admit your mistakes.
Right.
These are all very important pieces, in addition to the work that I do to create systems and spreadsheets and templates. I mean, I can't. I wish I could get away from that. That's part of the job,
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, I mean, we all need tools that help us guide ourselves, also. And okay, any shout outs that you would like to give before we go into closing?
I'm going to forget somebody. I want to let folks know I'm also an amateur actor, and I've worked with some amazing casts and crews, mostly from Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ghana, and Cameroon.
Okay.
And I wanted to shout out Remy Mamadou, who gave me probably the biggest role I ever had in her movie called XYZA.
Okay. All right. Now
you see that.
Oh, we can showcase that movie right on right after this break. So that way our audience gets a chance to to take a look at the movie. What's the title of the movie again?
It's called XYZA. It's XYZA, but I don't think it's available for streaming. But
Okay.
the premiere is out there, and
Okay.
the trailer's out there. And,
If you send us the trailer or 2 minutes of the trailer, we definitely I mean we definitely pass in the trailer.
And I have to thank Ada Brown for getting me to Panifest, and everybody involved with Panifest, including yourself. And it's
Thank
such
you.
a great team that's still together to this day.
Indeed.
And of course, Adele-Clarice, who pushed me beyond my comfort zone to
Right.
try this thing called, managing.
Yeah. All right. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. And if there are, I would say, buzzwords to take out of this interview, they are the following: respect, diversity, culture, push yourself beyond the comfort zone, allow yourself to grow, even with the mistakes that you make. So until next time, remember that if we don't do it for ourselves, no one else will. We'll hug. Thank you for being our guest. I appreciate
you
you
so
taking
much.
time out of your busy schedule to spend these few minutes with us. All right. And we hope to bring you back.
Okay.
All right.
deal.
Thank you, sir. Until next time, peace.
My name is Rebecca Banks. I've been running my company for over 8 years. Until the day I met these two buyers.
My friend? So I got you.
Well, we need some candy and we got something for you.
And I'll make sure my boys get to it right away. It's nice doing business with you gentlemen. Hello? Yes?